Hello everyone, this is Sam from Saberisixrealestate. Long time no talk. As you can tell, I finally got a stand so I don't have to hold my phone anymore, but I'm still using headphones. But that's gonna end soon too. I'm gonna buy a good microphone. I'm just doing a little bit of research and I've been really busy with work and I've been away for a while, so microphone's up next. So today's video is about 5 things every homeowner should know before they rent their house. Before we get to the list, however, as always, please subscribe and comment, like the video if you like it, and hey, if you dislike the video, even if you're a friend of mine who I've asked to subscribe to this channel, give me a big thumbs down, because you know, honest feedback is always better than dishonest feedback. Anyways, let's start with the list. So before we get into it, I just want to clarify one more time. This is 5 things every homeowner should know before they rent their house. All right, number 5. It's very, very hard to evict bad tenants, even good tenants. But assuming you're a reasonable person and you don't want to evict a good tenant, let's just say bad tenants. The reason for this is that the laws currently in place, more specifically speaking, the Residential Tenancies Act where I work, the legislation is designed to protect the tenants far more than it is designed to protect the landlords. This means that sometimes the eviction process could take up to 6 to 12 months. Now, that's the worst case scenario, 6 to 12 months. I don't want to exaggerate and say that it typically takes that long. However, it's not rare by any means as well, right? In my experience, it usually takes 4 to, I would say, 3 months to evict bad tenants, but that's most often wherein the tenants are kind of somewhat cooperating in the process as well. They're not being complete pricks about it. But 4 to 5 months as well, it's still a long time to lose out on potential rental income, right? And some houses, for instance, can go up to $4,000, $5,000 a month. So the landlord, even in the best example wherein it takes 4 months, the landlord is without rental income for 4 months. And even worse, in the 6 to 12 month range. Number 4, now that you know rather that it's very hard to evict tenants, what kind of tenants do you want? Now, obviously everyone's gonna say, well, I want good tenants. Well, yeah, no crap. However, what I'm talking about is what kind of portfolio, because good tenants come in different types. In my mind, there's 3 primary categories you could put the tenant portfolio in, right? So one of the 3 tenant categories is students. So these people have no income, they go to school, and once again, most likely don't have any income, but if they do have any income, it's part-time income because they probably only have time to work part-time at a fast food restaurant or a clothing store because they're a full-time student, right? And once again, in the area I work in, these students tend to be foreign students. Now with this category, it has its positives as well. Obviously the negatives you can pretty much instinctually pick up off the bat that hey, they don't have that much income, and they're students as well, so they might be partying, there might be a lot of people over all the time, there might be loud, obnoxious people, not really mature. It might be their first time living somewhere outside of the home, and they might not really know how to take care of a property that's not their house. But on the positive side, foreign students tend to be on the richer side, because to have enough money to travel and go into a different country to study abroad, assuming there's some type of scholarship involved, typically it's safe to assume that the family that student is coming from is on the wealthier side. So what happens is students, especially foreign students, typically tend to give up half the year to the full year up front to provide peace of mind for the landlord. The other category of tenants that I've come across is working professionals. Now, these are people who are typically older than the students and recently graduated people who are young, maybe a young couple who are both working full-time, right? So, a little bit more experienced than students, but still not as experienced as the third category of tenants. which is a out and out family. Now, you know, families where it's 5 people to 3 people, just a couple and a child. And, you know, the parents are most likely in their 40s and 50s and they've been renting for years, or they were even former homeowners as well, right? So as you can see, these 3 categories of tenants, number 1 being students, number 2 being working professionals, and number 3 being families, all 3 of them come with positives and negatives, right? Even if all 3 have examples of potential good tenants, right? There could be good student tenants and there could be good family tenants. It's just what kind of property do you have and what kind of portfolio do you want? Moving on to number 3 of the 5 things you should know if you're gonna rent your home as a homeowner, right? So by now, you know that it's hard to evict and you know what kind of tenants do you want. Number 3 refers to what is their credit score / report like. Now, credit scores and reports are very, very vital because they really give you a good understanding of what kind of tenants you're dealing with, right? For instance, how much they owe on any given credit cards and what is the credit limit, right? At the end of the day, when you rent your house for 12 months, you sign a 12-month contract, most often the tenants are not paying the whole 12 months up front, unless, as I said, they're foreign students. So what happens is basically you might have a deposit of first and last, and you have a promise of, hey, I'm gonna pay you for the next 10 months that I haven't already paid with my deposit. In a way, you're kind of lending them an asset, which is their house, and in return, they have promised you to pay, right? They promised you that, hey, I owe you however much the monthly rent is times 10. So for this reason, when you look at their credit report and credit score, right, you can see, well, when this tenant has a credit limit of let's say $20,000 and he owes his monthly bill, how often is he late on his bill? How often does he pay his bill in full? How often does he get charged interest? And how often, you know, is he late on his payments? And besides, for instance, seeing how timely the tenant is with their payments of, for instance, their car or their credit card, you can also see how much liability they have on their plate, right? Because let's say a tenant makes $60,000 a year, however, they have $40,000 in liabilities, that's not good, right? And how are they able to pay you rent when they already have $40,000 or $20,000, whatever, on their plate as it is? All right, number 2 of the 5 things you should know as a homeowner before you rent your house, and we've already touched on this a tad bit, is income. You should know the income of your tenant. Now, this once again might go without saying. However, it's always good to have your potential tenant's work contract or job letter in your hands. And, you know, in my experience, sometimes bad tenants, or maybe unintentionally bad tenants, if you want to be charitable, they give you half the contract, for example. They give you the part of the contract that states that they make a certain amount, but it doesn't state how many hours they work, or it doesn't state that how long they're employed for, or when their contract expires, or if there's any probationary period in their contract. So you should always have the full work contract stating how much does this person work, sorry, how many hours does this person work, and how much do they make? Are they on salary or are they on wage? Is there any probationary period? When does the work contract expire? All the necessary information should be included in the full contract in your hands as a homeowner. And the number 1 thing you should know as a homeowner who wants to rent their house is that landlord reference letters don't mean anything. Now, obviously, this applies to instances wherein your potential tenant has previously rented somewhere else, right? Obviously, you're not going to request a landlord reference letter if the tenant has informed you that they've never rented before. Most cases, they have rented before, right? And in which case, I would suggest to you don't even ask for the reference letter, just ask for a phone number so you can contact the landlord. However, I take it with a sense of cynicism, because in my experiences, landlords typically lie or exaggerate how good their tenant is so they can get them the hell out as soon as possible. So let me just explain this with an example. Let's say you're a homeowner, you have a tenant that's not really a good tenant. Maybe they pay rent every month on time, but they use the utilities a lot. They're really loud, they don't take care of the property, and they've been renting there for 2 years, and you can rent it for much higher if it's a new person moving into the rental unit versus if they renew, right? So you just want to get your current tenants out of the door as soon as possible, and they've already also told you that they want to move out too. So it's in your best interest that they move out. So when another landlord calls you or another agent calls you asking, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Blank have rented your house for 2 years. Are they good tenants? They're looking to rent my house or my client's house. Can you tell me a little about them? Most often, now not all the time, but most often, the landlord will always say, yeah, they're great tenants, they always pay on time, they do backflips when they see me, they give to charity. There's amazing people. They all even give me more money than I ask for. Now, I'm exaggerating, right? But they will never say, yeah, he doesn't pay rent, or he's loud, he's a smoker, he has a lot of people over at the house, he's racist. Maybe, I don't know. So just to quickly go over the list of 5 things you should know before you rent your house. Again, number 5, know that it's difficult to evict tenants. Number 4, know what kind of tenants you want, rather what portfolio. Number 3, always know your tenant's credit score and credit report and request as such. Number 2, much like the credit report, request your tenant's contract or job letter so you can know their employment information. And number 1, know that landlord reference letters or landlord reference phone calls are often bullshit.